Welcome to the Academic Woman Amplified podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Mazak, tenured full professor, mom of three, and firm believer that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Is it time for you to hit the reset button? Not just on your writing, but maybe on a whole lot of things. On today's podcast, I want to dig deep into all the things that you should be thinking about resetting in your academic life. Because here's the thing, I think that our current global pandemic crisis is very, very upsetting and obviously a lot to deal with. But I'm a relentlessly optimistic person, and I do like to look for opportunities even in the midst of crisis. And I think that this crisis has given a lot of academics, in addition to tons of extra work and stress, it also is maybe giving us the opportunity to reset a lot of things about our academic life. So that's what today's podcast is about. Get ready to suspend your disbelief that there might be some positive side to what's going on right now. Certainly the negatives outweigh the positives, but I want to explore the ways that you might use this time when you are at home, mandatorily at home, to reset a bunch of things about your career, including your writing practice. Now, inside of my Amplify program, which is my program for pre-tenure women on the tenure track who are trying to go up for tenure with confidence, we are talking this month about mindset. And the content that goes with our mindset work is called Reset Your Mindset. And so this month, I'm going to be delivering a special workshop all about resetting your mindset. And we are going to dig deep into lots and lots of things that could be reset in this particular historical moment. But I wanted to give you podcast listeners a little peek into the kinds of things that we're going to be talking about in Amplify by doing this podcast where I'm going to talk about 4 things to hit the reset button on in your career. All right, so let's go with the first one. It is time for you to reset people's expectations about your email response time. Now, if you know me personally, you know that I hate email. Like, I really hate email. Like, I don't want to answer or deal with emails at all, ever. So it's definitely like, I call it a hate-hate relationship with email. Like, I struggle with it. But part of the reason I struggle with it is because email is how work arrives to you. And at this particular time, I'm recording this episode on March 29th, 2020. Many of us are now working from home and are basically staying at home to try to flatten the curve on the COVID-19 virus. Our universities are telling us to work from home. And so now more than ever, emails are bringing you work. They're bringing you stress. Sometimes they are one of the only ways that your admin, that your administration, that your students, can reach you. So you might think that that means that you should be always available on email and that your response time on email should be something along the lines of within a couple of hours. But I think this is a big, big mistake. One of the reasons I think this is a big mistake is that email is not the medium through which to convey emergencies. Email is an asynchronous medium. You have to log in to look at it. It is just not designed to be the bringer of emergency news. And right now, we have other ways that emergency news may get to us, including the telephone, which still exists, and messenger apps and all kinds of other things. So there's really no reason to use email as a way to call a meeting at 10 o'clock meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning. Like, no, that is absolutely not an acceptable use of email. And so if your university is doing that, and a lot of you are saying, oh, my university does that all the time, I think that now is the perfect time to push back against that. What you want to do is teach people what to expect from you in terms of email. So you really don't want to teach people that you are going to answer every email they send within 30 minutes. The reason is not that you want to be a jerk and not listen to what people have to say to you through email, but rather that is going to disrupt the kind of work that you can do. And especially right now, when so many of us are working from home, we need to be really careful and draw strict boundaries around our work time, because it used to be that we would leave our house to go to work. And so there were kind of strict boundaries around, or not so strict for some people, but there were boundaries around work and home time. And now we have to kind of create those boundaries ourselves. And so we don't want email filtrating through every waking moment of the day. So one of the 4 things that I think we can be resetting right now is people's expectations of your email response time. You do need to decide for yourself what that email response time is for you. I believe that 24 hours is perfectly acceptable as an email response time. And, you're going to have to decide that for yourself. But I encourage you to corral your email time, to limit it to a certain hour during the day, to open it at the beginning of that hour and close it at the end of that hour and not go back to it. You can use the new email scheduling feature inside of Gmail if you're a Gmail user. Right built into the app now, you can schedule an email to go out at a certain time. And that way, you're not like, sometimes people will email you, they'll get an immediate response, and then they think that you're always going to give them an immediate response. And that's not true. It's just that they caught you during your email hour. So, think about how you might use a timer in order to respond to people. And especially if you've decided to check your email in the evenings or in the middle of the night or something, you don't want people thinking that you are working at those times, because then they get the idea that they're going to be able to get you and get you to work at those times. And you really, really don't want to do that. So one of the things that we should be hitting the reset button on right now is people's expectations of your email response time. Okay, got 3 more things for you. So the second thing, we should be hitting the reset button on your approach to your availability. Okay, so one of the problems of working from home is that, again, the boundaries that you create around work time and family time, or work time and rest time, are artificial, right? They're created by you. And so it is time for you to step up and really create those boundaries, reset those boundaries. Work cannot ooze into every moment of your day. You don't need it to, first of all, to get everything done. You don't need to be working 24/7 to get everything done. In fact, if you do not rest, you will get less done. And so this idea that if we just work more, we'll get more done is actually the opposite is true. You need to work and you need to rest, and there need to be clear boundaries between the things. Now, how does this relate to resetting your availability? Well, you really want to make sure that you are not available 24/7 to people. So if your admin or some colleagues send you an email or even call you on the phone and are they trying to set up a meeting time, you need to tell them, I'm available for meetings these hours on these days. And if they come back with something outside of those hours and those days, you need to say, I am unavailable at those times. The kind of cool thing about working from home is that it's different than like you being in your office and saying that you're unavailable. Sometimes we have trouble with that as well. Like some people have trouble saying they're unavailable and then being in their office on campus. People think, well, why couldn't she meet with me? She's just in her office by herself. That's of course silly. And also like you need to communicate your boundaries to people and what you're doing, because you could totally be writing alone in your office, which is an important activity, and you should not schedule meetings over it. So when we were on campus, there was kind of a certain set of difficulties around being firm about your availability. And when you're at home, there's a different set. So what I want you to think about, though, is how can you reset those boundaries around your availability? And if you started out in this crisis thinking, and understandably so, thinking like, I really need to be there for my students, so I'm going to write back to them as soon as they write to me, or I'm going to be available on Zoom for hours and hours to hold office hours or whatever. If you started out the crisis this way, probably by now you've realized that you can't keep that up. And so it's time to hit the reset button on that availability. I'm going to give you a couple of concrete tips that you can use. One is to use a free calendar scheduling tool like Calendly. And what Calendly does is it lets you create meeting times. It syncs with your Google Calendar so that it won't put meetings on top of things that are already on your calendar. But it really lets you kind of automatically draw boundaries around your time, and just when somebody wants to meet with you, you send them the Calendly link and they schedule onto your calendar, and there's a limit. It's not, you don't set it up so that they could schedule at any time of day. You definitely block those off. And to help you block time off for these things, I would encourage you to go back and listen to the episode about creating your ideal week. It's probably time to recreate your ideal week. If you are working from home now, it would be great to go back, listen to that episode, redo your ideal week so that you can set those boundaries around meeting times and times when you are available to students. We want to help students as much as we can, but we cannot be available 24/7. It is counterproductive for you to do that. You need to protect yourself, you need to protect your time, and you need to rest and take care of yourself, especially now. All right, the third thing that you could be resetting right now is the productivity bar. Now, you might know that I don't like the word productivity, and I'm in my office recording this podcast, putting air quotes around productivity. The reason I don't like the word productivity is because it makes it sound like we're just robots putting out products, and we're not. We're humans. So especially right now, when this global crisis is weighing on us heavily and upturning everything that we know to be true about how we get our jobs, all our beautiful plans for the semester have been really just thrown over for putting the rest of the semester online and figuring out how to take care of our students and ourselves right now. We really need to reset your expectations, reset the bar around, what you're going to get done in the next couple of months. And that might be really hard for people to hear, but I think it's super important. It's very important to understand that you are in a global pandemic. You are not supposed to be more productive now than before. Even though you're home, And especially maybe because you're home, because depending on so many factors, including, if you have a chronic illness, if you suffer from anxiety and depression, if you have small family members that you take care of, if you have older family members that you take care of, if you're alone and lonely, like there's so many reasons why being locked in your house for weeks on end is going to deteriorate your ability to create things. We should not be thinking that just because we're home, we can get more done. That's not true. In fact, I think what we can think, though, is just because we're home, we actually can maybe get more done in less time, like work fewer hours and get the same results. But that's because a lot of the work we do on campus involves like a lot of messing around, like walking places and eating lunch and all that thing. So don't think that you should be working 8 hours a day from home. Nobody who has a career, many people who have careers from home know that they can get a ton done in 4 to 6 hours a day. They don't really need 8 hours. So this is all to say that you need to reset the productivity bar. Think about what you thought you were going to get done in terms of writing and research and in terms of creating new things. You're going to need to lower that bar. And of course, all of this has implications for tenure and promotion. Those are the kinds of things we talk about inside my Amplify program, which has group coaching in it. It has one-on-one coaching and lots of tools and resources for talking through and making a plan for tenure and promotion. But for now, what I would say is now is not the time to try to hit the same goals as you had originally set out for yourself in January. Everything has changed since then, so it is time to reset the bar and probably lower it on what you thought you were going to get done. Finally, the fourth thing to reset is your writing practice. Okay, so again, right now is probably not the time for most of us to be going great guns on our writing practice. And in fact, my advice to everyone right now is to back up and get back to basics with your writing practice. If you've been a listener of this podcast, you know that the signature method that I teach for writing involves this thing called Tiger Time. And the basic idea behind this writing practice or writing tool is to use your best, most focused, most energetic hours of the day for your writing. And that if you do that, if you say like, those are my writing hours and the other hours when I'm exhausted are not my writing hours. If you do that, you don't need hours and hours and hours on end of writing because you're going to be able to hit that flow state in writing and you're going to get words on the page that you're not going to have to go back and completely edit out. You're going to have a much better relationship with your writing. It's going to feel encouraging and exciting because when you sit down to write, things are going to flow. Now, you can get the details about how to do that in episode 2. But what I would say and what the advice I'm giving to people right now is reset your Tiger Time practice. Figure out, again, what your Tiger Time is. You're probably sleeping different hours now that you're home. You are probably, have different energy levels because you're not leaving the house. You need to rethink and reassess your Tiger Time and then go back to basics and strive for 1 to 2 hours of writing during your Tiger Time once or twice a week. So the low end of that is 1 hour a week during your Tiger Time. And the high end of that is twice a week, 2 hours during your Tiger Time. So we're not talking about hours and hours and hours of writing. We really want to dial way back, get back to basics, just reassess what your Tiger Time is and try to hit it 1 hour a week. Then you can edge up. So those are the 4 things to consider resetting, to hit the reset button on in your career right now. Number 1, reset people's expectations of your email response time. Number 2, reset your approach to your availability. It's time to reset those availability boundaries. Number 3, reset the productivity bar. And number 4, reset your writing practice. Now, inside of Amplify this month, we are going to be doing a whole lot more resetting. We're going to talk a lot more about different additional things about your career to reset right now. And also inside of the Academic Women's Writing Roadmap, which is going to be opening for enrollment in about 2 weeks from when you're hearing this podcast. In that course, we talk not only about Tiger Time, but all the different writing practices that add up to creating a writing system that can sustain you even through these troubled times. So even though I'm advocating lowering the productivity bar, I know that we can't take that bar to 0, most of us. So if you are interested in how to find time to write, how to get your pipeline flowing, how to plan your pipeline, how to move projects through it, then I invite you to stay tuned and make sure that you are on my email list so that when registration opens for the Academic Women's Writing Roadmap course, you are ready to sign up. The way that you can do that is to go ahead and download my free PDF cheat sheet, which is called 10 Ways to Make Time to Write. When you sign up to get that PDF delivered to you, you will be on my email list. So you will be getting weekly emails about the podcast, letting you know when episodes are available. You'll be getting emails about free trainings that I offer, like free webinars and a video series and free Facebook Lives that I do that are trainings available to anyone who wants to see on my Facebook page. And you'll also get your invitation to join the I Should Be Writing Facebook group, where, of course, we're announcing all the free trainings and everything. So make sure you download the 10 Ways to Make Time to Write PDF handout and stay tuned for more trainings around making time to write.
Thank you so much for spending your valuable time loving on yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you'd like to continue the conversation, join the over 7,000 academic women in the I Should Be Writing Facebook group. Just go to facebook.com/groups/I Should Be Writing or search for I Should Be Writing inside your Facebook app. See you inside.